Well, it's still early days here in our first season of Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg, but briefly, we did make our way into a European qualifying spot. Fingers crossed we can get back up there during the course of today's episode when we take on Wolfsburg and Augsburg in a derby, and more importantly, stretch that gap on the teams in the relegation zone. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 55 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. We've got Wolfsburg away from home and then Augsburg in a local derby here in the Bundesliga. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to those two games coming up. It does come off the back of the first couple in our first season here in the Bundesliga that we did play in yesterday's episode. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Start off there with a little bit of a bottle job, a late goal there we conceded to suffer a defeat in our first game, 2-1 away at Cologne, but then bounced back and beat a Hoffenheim team who of course offered us a job interview during the course of the off-season 2-1, so that was very satisfying, not too bad there. 3 points from our first two games, probably should have been 4, but not too bad. We'll take that being a new team up from the Zwei Bundesliga last season. Off the back of that, played two teams who I thought were relatively beatable and we should take some points off of, and in the end, that did end up being the case somewhat. First up, we went away to take on Union Berlin. To be fair, a little bit of doubt going into that game off the back of the fact they did beat Bayern 1-0 the same time that we beat Hoffenheim. In the end though, a 69th minute goal, which did take a pretty wicked deflection there, which was scored by Tim Breithelp, did cancel out an early header there, put away by Ruslan, so it ended up being a 1-1 draw. You see the stats there. It was a relatively quiet game. I think we take the point from that one and do move on, going back to the 4-3-3 for that game. Might not have been the best idea in the end, because we just didn't quite hold on there and pick up all 3 points, but still a point away from home in the Bundesliga. Not too bad, especially because Union Berlin, as I said, did beat Bayern, so that's actually not the worst result, but then really a must-win game for us, because so far the other two promoted teams from the Zwei Bundesliga last season have looked pretty rubbish here in the Bundesliga, and thankfully that did continue when we picked up a 3-1 win at home over Nuremberg. Early goals there to Rene Müller inside the first minute and also at the half-hour mark. They did grab one back there through Robin Hack again, a bit of an unlucky goal to concede, which did take a bit of a deflection, but Ruslan from a set piece put that one away just before we did enter injury time. So a good 3-1 win there. You see the stats, it's really a game that we deserve to win, and in the end it pretty much matched up to the XG for both teams. So 4 points from 2 games since you were last here. It does mean that we sat on 7 points off the back of our first 4 played, and briefly we're sitting up there in a European qualifying spot, albeit now that we're playing on the Sunday on this 5th match day, we have dropped down to 8th, but it's been a pretty good start for us here at Jahn Regensburg, albeit you kind of expected with that draw that we did have. It was quite kind early on, fingers crossed we are making the most of that, because when we make our way forward to October, it might not be so kind. Also December, a bit of a patch there that does look a little bit rough before we do hit that winter break. So fingers crossed today we can continue to pick up the points as we take on Wolfsburg as well as Augsburg. And also, it would be quite nice here to pick up some points, because unfortunately both Mainz and Nuremberg do come into this just having picked up their first couple of wins of the season. Nuremberg got past Schalke 3-2 and going back the day prior. Mainz somehow beat a previously quite threatening looking Gladbach team 1-0. So those teams that came up alongside us are starting now pick up some points, but thankfully we've put a little bit of a gap on them so far, and we sit 3 points clear of them with this game in hand, which hopefully we can make the most of first up as we take on Wolfsburg. And still, we sit above Bayern with this game in hand as well, so hopefully we can keep that up, albeit not too sure how long we can realistically do that. But first up today, we take on Wolfsburg, who currently sit all the way down in 14th. To be fair, the record not too dissimilar to us, just one game that they didn't quite get the job done and compared to us, and they lost instead of won, but they're down there on 4 points. This one is away from home, could be a little bit tricky, albeit they are currently playing some Europa League qualifying games that could actually be distracting them just a little bit. But Alexander Blesson is the manager. They are a quite decent club. Wolfsburg expected to finish in 6th. Obviously, if they're participating in the Europa League qualifiers, it looks like they might have made their way through to the group stage, seeing as they are taking on Stade Rennais off the back of this game. They are obviously a pretty good team, but might be distracted by that European football. So fingers crossed that we can make the most of that. Also off the back of that last episode, we had deadline day. nothing happens. Don't have to cover off any more transfers here at Jahn Regensburg until we make our way through to the mid-season transfer window. But recent form outside of the Europa League, honestly, not that great. Did start the season with that win over Stuttgart, have lost to Hamburg and Bayern, did though manage to take points off Gladbach. So it's fair to say their form is kind of mixed, as I've mentioned a few times. Maybe Europe is taking up a bit more of their attention currently. Hopefully that continues and we can find a way to grab a point here from this game and try and make sure that we're a few points clear of those teams who are down in the relegation zone. Thankfully as well, we've got no injury concerns and I'm pretty sure there's no suspensions either. And indeed, that is the case, so it does mean we can go into this first game of today's episode with a full strength team. So let's hope we can pick up some points here before that big derby we take on Augsburg. But to be fair, our early draw this season, we're taking on these teams when they are struggling. So I'm quite hopeful we can make the most of that here early on in our time up in the top flight. Dawn comes back in at left back because Seuss has been a little bit fair recently, suffering that injury in our first game of the season, is still coming back from it. But of course, Dawn should be a better left back attribute-wise anyway, so fingers crossed he finally can actually make that count there in our first choice Jahn Regensburg team. There are Wolfsburg going with a bit, it almost looks like, of a 4-2-4, so quite an attacking formation here from the host. We're going back to the 4-2-3-1, saying, as our analyst does suggest, that that will suit these guys. And be fair, so far, we've been picking up the best results with that 4-2-3-1 compared to the 4-3-3. So let's hope here we can pick up something decent away from home. Also, while I was off camera, did ask again to get our Continental Pro license coaching badge going, and the board this time did accept it. So on our path there to completing our coaching badges here with this Jahn Regensburg team. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that because Dawn's come into our team here and given away, it looks like, a pretty silly penalty from a throw inside the final 30. Just tried to win the ball there, didn't quite get it. And it's a pretty clear-cut penalty, so a chance here for Mayer to give Wolfsburg an early lead. Lukic goes the wrong way, and they take a 1-0 lead with Lovro Mayer picking up his first goal of the season. So unfortunately, a poor start for us here first up in today's episode, taking on two teams today who are expected to finish a bit further up the table than the ones we took on to start our season. So it could be a bit of a chance for us here to get a bit of a reality check during the course of today's episode. In early stages, that might be the case. We go 1-0 down. Dawn there trying to make up from that free kick, but unfortunately tight angle and not that close to getting that one on target. So we still sit 1-0 down. To be fair, Wolfsburg though are picking up a couple of yellow cards. Hopefully it's something we can make the most of and try and put them maybe under a little bit of card pressure as we start to actually get something going here in this game stats wise. But XG Wolfsburg certainly on top, of course helped out by that penalty which we did give away, and unfortunately they're on the attack again here with a throw-in on the halfway line. Collar plays that to Jens and a ton of space there in the middle. Some lovely short passing. They pick out Van Persie, who thankfully misses there. A pretty clear-cut chance, so a big one there for Wolfsburg to make that 2-0 and really start to put this game to bed. Thankfully, we are still somewhat in it, just not looking too good so far. Some of our attackers out there aren't doing a great job. Ramsey and Tobruk, we are not looking too hot, albeit our left winger might get a chance here to get that rating up, but unfortunately can't find anyone from that set piece. But we'll get the ball back here down our left-hand side in quite a bit of space and gets it back from Walden. A wonderful curving effort into that top left corner. Johan de Burg here gets us on the score sheet, and a little bit against the run of play, we make it 1-1. So thankfully, it's back locked up here at Wolfsburg at the Volkswagen Stadium, I believe we're at today. But to work, we got stagged off there quite a bit during the course of that highlight off back of taking the corner, which was not too great. Probably looking for Ruslan there at the near post, but thankfully Walden then found him off the back of, I think it was Lopez, who played the ball back out to him. A good 1-2 into Burkweir can curve that one top left corner and make it 1-1 stats wise. If you take away the penalty, it's quite an even game. We'll make one sub here at halftime because Jimenez as well as Hubner at the back are going quite fairly, and also Toff up front will bring on for Muller. Those guys just looking a little bit average so far here in this game. So a couple of subs there. It'll be Ostiach at right back, Pavasic for Hubner, and Toff for Muller. To be fair, Muller not looking too hot in most games we've played apart from that Nuremberg one, and Nuremberg weren't looking too good before they picked up that win over Schalke. So I think the teams that came up alongside us aren't going to do too well here in the Bundesliga this season. Unfortunately, Pavasic has just come on and picked up a yellow card though, so that's not really ideal. One of our centre backs sitting on a yellow, and I'm not too sure if there's too much we can do off the bench if we need to replace him now. So that could be an issue. We might get in trouble here if he does get himself in a bit more foul trouble. A poor pass there though, and Wolfsburg get a chance here back on the attack. Some lovely short passing. Van Persie again with a really good chance, but this time it's Lukic who comes up with a big save. So Wolfsburg here have had a few chances to now get themselves back in front and really put this game to bed, but thankfully Van Persie not quite taking them. He's not quite robbing yet, and it's still 1-1. So fingers crossed here we can make the most of Wolfsburg fluffing their lines a little bit. Unfortunately, we try and find someone out there down our right-hand side. We don't, but Walden, some good hustle, and we are back on the ball. Ramsey to Manrique now, drawn ton of space here down our left-hand side. Fizzes in. They bring down Toff, but Ramsey's back there to put that one away, and we take a 2-1 lead at Wolfsburg. So to be fair, getting a little bit lucky so far in this game. Wolfsburg really have had some big chances through Van Persie to take a lead and even make it 2-0 or 3-1 if they were taking their chances, but thankfully they have not. And when we've been on the attack, we've looked quite dangerous, and Ramsey can give us a 2-1 lead. So it's a bit lucky, but we're in front here. Fingers crossed that this time we can hold on, unlike our first away game of the season yesterday, where we kind of bottled things when we took on Cologne. But Wolfsburg, they have been threatening quite a bit in this game, so I dare say there's some more goals that will come, but fingers crossed they might be in our favour. Lopez there picks up a yellow card. We'll bring on La Rosa for him. We have dropped Bullish down to our B team. He's the elder statesman, and honestly, it was quite nice to free up a bit more wage budget on that side of things in our finances. The Bullish will call up when we need to. When there's suspensions, he's now down in our B team. La Rosa can try and develop here in our first team. But again, now we're on the attack, trying to get something going down this right-hand side. Walden will float that one far post, but unfortunately, Grubara can come out and claim that one. Don't quite get a chance there to make it 3-1 and try and put this one to bed. Unfortunately, don't win the ball down the other end. Dawn, for some reason, clears that when Lukic probably could have come out and collected that ball and brought that highlight to a close. Unfortunately, Wolfsburg here are still on the attack from that long ball forward, and they do keep the ball here quite nicely. Thomas, nice one over the top there for the goal scorer earlier, and Meyer squares it for Eric Grishwash, who can put that one away. That might go on Dawn, because really didn't need to clear the ball there. That was going over the top. Lukic probably could have claimed it and then hoofed it deep and dealt with the danger, but instead Wolfsburg got back on the attack quite quickly, found some space there through Meyer down their left-hand side, and they grab an equaliser. So unfortunately, not in front for too long here at Wolfsburg. It is back to being 2-2, and now they are on the attack again here down their left-hand side. It's Dardell there who starts to make his way forward quite easily. Tries to put that one top right corner. Thankfully, Lukic is quite well positioned, though, to come up with a save. And about to make our way to the final 15 minutes of this game. Both our centre-backs are on yellow cards, which is concerning. With our final sub, let's see if Sousa can give us some impact there down that left-hand side, because Dawn has been a little bit average, gave away the penalty, and that poor clearance, which did allow Wolfsburg to make it 2-2. So really, he's been at fault for both the goals that we have conceded. But back on the attack here, that ball not quite on the money. Thankfully, Rosa does quite well there, get the ball back from that clearance, because it was a pretty 50-50 ball there, which we thankfully won. And Walden will square that one for Levente Toff, who puts it away. Will just cancel and praise instead of encourage. Make sure the fellas feel quite good off the back of making it 3-2. So a very entertaining game first up here in today's episode. You can see if we can hold on, we'd sneak our way all the way up into third, which certainly should show that we're going to be able to avoid relegation here in our first season up in the Bundesliga. But thankfully, in a very to-and-fro game where Wolfsburg probably think they should be in front here with all the chances they've had, we make it 3-2. A free kick there, unfortunately, can't quite find someone at the far post, but Walden gets that ball back for us now. Ramsey plays it back to Manrique, just takes his time there before going back to Pavicic, and now Ostić will find Manrique. Can Sousa find someone here down our left-hand side and create a goal like he did so from last season? No, that one's not quite the money. Now Wolfsburg have a lot of numbers here on the counter-attack. Surely their striker there is offside, and Vipotnik, no, he is not even a VAR check. We get done there on the counter-attack off the back of a free kick in a pretty dangerous position, and it's back to being 3-3. So this is a very entertaining game. Not too sure there what our defence is doing. I'm pretty sure someone was offside, but unfortunately it's the player who then pulled out. So Vipotnik can put that one away. You could argue that the other guy probably influenced play there with our defender positioning, but FM does allow that goal. So unfortunately, we're back to 3-3 here. It's been a very entertaining game. We've done pretty well XG-wise, considering that, of course, Wolfsburg, their first goal did come from the penalty spot, and that might be what does prove costly. 6 minutes of added time, which somehow ends up being 9 there with a late injury to Wolfsburg. It's a draw away from home against a team who are in Europe this season, so shouldn't really be too disappointed, but we had the lead there twice and did blow it, so that's now a little bit of a concern. A couple of occasions away from home where we've found the lead and haven't quite been able to hold on defensively this season, are looking a little bit more leaky than we were last season down in this Bundesliga. I suppose that's a difference in quality up here in the top flight of Germany. A 3-3 draw, as I said, really, when you look at it on paper, it's probably quite a good result. Just debating here what we do in terms of the post-match team meeting. No real impact from that talk that we did give. The tactical battle, we learnt a lot and all that sort of stuff. Let's get through here the post-match interview and see what that does to the table. We sneak back inside of a European qualifying spot, up on 8 points, all clear of mines in that promotion relegation game off the back of an entertaining 3-3 draw against Wolfsburg. So unfortunately, a couple more drop points from in front for us there. First up in today's episode, that's now every single away game we've played. We were in a winning position and have ended up either drawing or losing. So I suppose that is a bit concerning, albeit just coming up from this Bundesliga. It's probably quite good seeing that we're actually quite competitive in these games away from home, but still, we're not doing too badly on 8 points after 5 games, obviously sitting inside of one of those European qualifying spots. Now though, we've got a quick backup as we take on Augsburg, and this is, if we check out the supporter profile, a local derby. They want us to be competitive. Let's hope we can actually find a way here back at home to pick up a win. But these guys, for the first time this season, I'm pretty sure, we're taking on a team who actually do sit above us outside, of course, of the Hoffenheim game. That was a bit early to be judging things too much, to be fair. I'd still argue that that is the case, but hopefully can pick up a win here over our rivals the first time we take them on here. In this save, you can see their recent form has been pretty good. They got thumped by Gladbach a few ago. They're a weird team, Gladbach, quite good, but also managed to lose their to Mainz. Not too sure what's going on with that Gladbach team. It can't be too bad, seeing as they do sit in second. Around that, though, they've taken part in the Champions League, getting beaten by Club Brugge, and before then, they've beaten Bayern Munich 3-0. So it's a bit of a random form here we've got going on early stages in the Bundesliga season. This is at home, so fingers crossed we can find a way to beat these guys, but seeing as they're a Champions League club, this might be a bit of a tall ask, despite the fact they're actually predicted to finish below Wolfsburg in terms of the season preview. They might be focusing a little bit on the Champions League, but off the back of that Bruges loss, they're probably wanting to bounce back, especially in a local derby. So let's hope here we can find a way to beat these guys. A quick look at what our analyst does suggest here for this game. Most vulnerable facing a 4-4-2, so I'm going to go with the 4-3-3 first. I do think this has worked quite well for us when we've been at home so far this season. So let's see if that does continue. If things aren't looking too good, we can always switch back to the 4-2-3-1, which we're not looking too awful with as well, but just a bit too leaky defensive-wise, I feel like, off the back of that Cologne game at the start of the season and that Hoffenheim one that we did just play. And also some changes at wingback. Ostić and Sousa look to be going a little bit better than both Jimenez and Dawn. So we'll make some changes there at wingback and see if those will be a little bit of a difference maker. And let's see if we can pick up a result in our first derby of this save here at Jahn Regensburg. If we do, that would be a pretty nice result against the club in the Champions League. Also, unfortunately, Kamari, our backup advanced playmaker, did pick up an injury in training. So Ramiro comes up from our B team to sit on the bench as our advanced playmaker. We'll just give him a number here. Don't really want to replace the number of someone like Greenwood or Veloso, who we could still use this season. Let's just give him number 48, because it sort of looks like an advanced playmaker type number with the 8 on them. But we'll see if we use Ramiro here in this game. Hopefully Ramsey can last the full 90 minutes, and we can pick up another good result here at home so far. We've picked up wins in both our Bundesliga games in front of our home fans. Let's hope that that continues, but definitely our toughest test so far this season, I'd say, a derby, and against the team who currently are playing Champions League football. So definitely a bit of a step up here for these games in today's episode. Didn't do too badly against Wolfsburg, who are taking part in the Europa League. These guys, though, might be a little bit better, despite the fact that season preview-wise, expected to finish a bit further down. We'll see how things go here in a derby, our first one at Jahn Regensburg. Did pretty well in these with the Buxton base when we were back at Buxton, when we did have them. We didn't have them too often, only a couple. I think it was back in the National League or up in League 2. Can't quite remember who the derby team was back there when we were with the Bucks, but we were pretty good at not losing. It's looking like so far that's also the case here when we're at Jahn Regensburg, even with this move up to the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, the yellow card there to Sebastian Lopez. Try and make our way there out from the back at the 10-minute mark with this first highlight, but unfortunately, a chance there for Augsburg to get that ball back, and they do so rather easily. Now Arnold will play that one back there to Mal and goes up there to Bucks. An interesting name there, bit of a reference to the Bucks that we were formerly at. Now Guha is on the ball here. Just taking their time, trying to wait for some gaps to open up here. The away team in this derby. They eventually do find some space though. Ligolski will play that one forward and they pick out Luis Angel Diaz, who beats Lukic there. Bit of a tight angle. He tried to put pressure on him, but didn't do quite a good enough job, and they open the scoring in the first highlight. So unfortunately, might be on here for our first couple of drop points at home. It's a nice run there too from Diaz, as well as the ball. Lopez maybe could be doing better. That yellow card already might be impacting his performance, but we go 1-0 down early. Could be a game here. We're doing a bit of a technical switch. Might not be the worst idea if we continue to play like this, because about halfway through the first half now, we've done absolutely nothing. And position-wise, we're not looking too good either. Usually, we hold on to the ball pretty well here with the tactic that we are using, either with the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. But today, we're not really up too much. We eventually do get some shots going there just past the half-hour mark, but nothing threatening at all. And that will do it for the first half. We're 1-0 down. Quite a few players out there who aren't looking too good. So I dare say going to be quite a few changes here at halftime. We'll take off Miller again on a 6.4 for Levante Toff. Fingers crossed he can score off the bench like he did in that Wolfsburg game. And also LaRosa, he can come on here for the yellow carded Lopez. We've got 3 more subs we can make with those 3 stoppages in the second half. But we'll tell the guys they really need to do a little bit better here in this game. 1-0 down in a derby at home would be quite nice to at least take some points off these guys, even though they are a Champions League team. But unfortunately, we are going to stick for now with the 4-3-3, but Augsburg do continue to get the highlights here in their favour, cutting us open far too easily. That one gets tipped, I believe, onto the woodwork, just struggling to make our way out from back. Thankfully, that shot does go over the bar, but I think it's time now to switch to the 4-2-3-1, because so far, we're not looking threatening at all here with that 4-3-3. And trying to make our way out from the back, looking quite ropey as well. We'll also take off Ostojic on a 6.4 while we're here for Alex Jimenez, who we did drop maybe. That wasn't the greatest idea. Yellow card though, and he will be suspended for our next game. But to be fair, I think that one is against Mainz, which should be a little bit easier. The way the other promoted teams are going so far here up in the Bundesliga, and we encouraged you just at the right time to cut out a corner. But now about to make our way to the final 15 minutes or so, and 2 players actually drop down to Red Hudson. Munry can come off a Collier, and also Dawn on there for Sousa. Was just thinking briefly if we should go to the 4-4-2, which I've kind of loaded up but not tested too much, considering that apparently that's a formation that does suit these guys. We'll tell the guys to fire up, and just as we do, there's a highlight here of thrown inside the final third. Collier there, quite poor on the ball though, and we do lose it, but everything off the back of the clearance, we do get it back. Now Dawn finds some space here down the left-hand side, pulls that one back there for Johan Regensburg, who scores in back-to-back games. Will cancel actually the fire up because it didn't quite go through, and encourage. We grab an equaliser in the derby off the back of switching to a 4-2-3-1. So maybe the 4-2-3-1 might be the tactic we're looking a little bit better with here so far up in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg. Quite fortunate that one. Not too sure if it actually was going on target, but thankfully the deflection makes sure it finds its way into the back of the net, and we make it 1 also. Despite the fact we've been quite poor so far in this game, we level things up, and then a free kick. The ball somehow goes far post there off of, I think that was LaRosa, and Hübner can score what might be his first goal since we've come here. Usually it's the other centre-back in Ruslan or Pavicic who pops up with goals, or even Carstens last season. This time, put in the right place, right time to put it home. So a quick fire double to make it 2-1, and we make our way to the final 10 minutes. So it's time for us here to start time wasting just a little bit. But this would be a very good result considering just how poor we were in the first half of this game, and also the fact we do have to switch our formations. It might be paying off. So with 5 minutes left, we'll lower the tempo, time waste even more, and chuck our wing backs onto fullbacks on support instead. So let's hope that that does make us a little bit harder to break down at something. I could consider going with full time, but I do quite like the attack. It does give us, especially down our left-hand side, will be a late corner here to Augsburg. Thankfully, hit that one away. Actually, great chance for us here on a counter-attack through Collier, who had a pretty easy pass there to Lewis Walden. He somehow mucked that one up, not too sure. Hey, underhit that pass, but Collier has, thankfully, Jimenez, though, will get that ball back for us there down that right-hand side. Ruslan plays that one to Collier, thankfully. That pass a lot more easy for him to execute, and we're back on the attack here. Ramsey makes his way inside of the final third. Will float this far post for Johann. Squeeze it nicely for Toff, but his shot does take a deflection. We do still see the corner, though, which Johann will take, looking for Ruslan. Can't quite find him, but we keep the pressure on, about to make our way into 5 minutes of added time. Fingers crossed here. We time waste quite a bit from the set piece and make sure we hold on and pick up 3 more big points at home to continue an unbeaten record at the Jahn Regensburg since we've come up to the Bundesliga again. Can't quite find Ruslan there from that set piece, and actually decent chance here for Augsburg on the counter-attack, but thankfully someone there did just straight offside and Makarov. We start to make our way a bit deeper into 5 minutes of added time. Now, XG-wise, actually getting on the front foot in this game, and thankfully we turn around there a pretty average first 50 minutes or so with the 4-3-3, switching to the 4-2-3-1 and pick up a come-from-behind 2-1 win there against Augsburg in the derby to work with there with a deflected goal with 13 minutes left. Only a few minutes later, a free kick which got headed towards the near post. I think that was there from the roaster. In fact, no assist for that goal, so maybe not, but certainly he was involved somehow and hooked in the right place, right time to head that one home, and we pick up a big 3 points against the team who are in the Champions League this season. It's not doing too badly here. Early stages up in the Bundesliga with this Jahn Regensburg team. We take points away from home off a Europa League team in Wolfsburg and pick up 3 more there against the Champions League team, our rivals in Augsburg. And for now, we sit second off the back of that 2-1 win. So switching to the 4-2-3-1 gets the job done there in that derby. Was a bit hard to tell what we should do against teams we should be using the 4-4-2 against, seeing as we haven't quite figured out a way to get that working for us. But in the end of that game, it was the 4-2-3-1. We left it late, but thankfully a quick fire double does mean that we beat Augsburg in our derby. We do drop down to third off the back of other results on that match day because Gladbach have gone back on top. They continue to be a little bit of a random team in the save, but they're doing just well enough to sit on top. To be fair, I say random, mostly that loss to Mainz. Not too sure how you lose to those guys and pick up so many goals and points in all the other games, but they do sit on top, 1 point clear of Dortmund, and we sit there all in our lonesome in third spot. So far, going very well for us here in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg, but things are about to get tougher off the back of this international break that we do have now, because off the back of me taking on Mainz away from home off camera, that's definitely a game we should be aiming to pick up points from, despite the fact that they did beat Gladbach. We should hopefully have the wood over them, especially with Baumgart now off at Anderlecht. Then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll take on Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund. Leverkusen are going a bit fairly, but Dortmund in second and in front of the yellow wall. But hopefully you guys did enjoy today's episode. Good results there again against Wolfsburg and Augsburg. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Until tomorrow for that Leverkusen and Dortmund double. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.